Although some of you may not be familiar with Future Ports, many of our members are here, and just quickly, we're a membership-based advocacy group representing the entire goods movement supply chain. So we represent businesses and industries that either work at the ports of San Pedro Bay or depend on the ports for their business. So here's just a few of the industries that we represent. Our vision is basically focused on balance. We really want to advocate between economic concerns and environmental stewardship. We do believe that there is growth to be had at the ports, and we want them to grow as green as economically feasible. So it's really important to us that we keep our competitive advantage over other regions. I think most of you can relate to that as well. Our priorities: advocacy, awareness, and outreach. Again, you can download all this. A lot of challenges facing the ports. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with that. We've got the community opposition, we've got EIR, the EIR processes that take many, many years, and then a lot of other policies that are impacting our businesses. Cargo is really one of those things that it can go. What I'm trying to say here, it's like the water that it travels on, it will seek and find the path of least resistance. In the old days, we used to have one gateway to Southern California and to Asia, and that was to Southern California. Now we have quite a few other options, and especially with the opening of the new expanded Panama Canal in 2014. The Canadian Gulf and East Coast ports are very actively and aggressively pursuing our cargo, and they will chip away at it, and it will have some significant impacts on our economy. So what are we doing to retain that cargo and to train our next generation of workforce? We're working very hard to make sure that we do keep that cargo and that market share here in Southern California. So here's what a few of the industries are doing. Custom brokers and freight forwarders, that's what happens behind the scenes before cargo actually gets on the ships. It's filling out the necessary paperwork. It's a field that's not going to go away. And the Foreign Trade Association believes that demand is going to increase as cargo volumes come back up. They are offering training through the Foreign Trade Association and other groups for certification and other updates. Steamship lines, not doing too well as far as hiring here. A lot of them are moving out of state. The ones that have headquarters in California, high rent, high wages, and some not so friendly business practices. Port pilots. This is one that there's not a lot of these jobs, but they're very cool jobs. There's only about 100 of them in Southern California, in California. Puget Sound and New York, New Jersey has quite a bit. And then just this bottom photo on the right, you got a ship that, this is kind of misleading. That ship is actually going backwards down the channel. So these guys are the best of the best that are out there. So it's real important that we have these high-tech jobs out there and high-wage jobs. Another one, marine terminal operators. Not doing so well as far as hiring. They've had a freeze since 2008. They have a new normal, and that is, like a lot of us, doing more with less. They believe that in 2014 there's a triple threat of the Panama Canal opening up, the expanded Panama Canal, with potential labor contract negotiations, and they're concerned about environmental policies such as ships having to plug in at berth. Labor, ILWU has quite a few opportunities. They have over 19,000 local employees, and they expect to see growth over the next 5 years. They're working hard with business to preserve and grow those jobs, and I think some of our speakers earlier alluded to that. They're working very, very closely. They're involved with Future Ports. They're involved with other trade organizations as well. So the bright spot is actually the railroads. The Class 1 railroads have probably the best story to tell right now. They are actively hiring I did speak with the BNSF Railway, and they are hiring as well. I did not get their statistics, however, they're very similar to Union Pacific. UP has 32,000 employees in their service area, and they've got 3,000 in Southern California. They have an aging workforce. Excuse me. Oh, no, I was right. Sorry. They have an aging workforce, and like Jack mentioned, and like Tom mentioned, and they are going to be replacing 19,000 employees over the next 10 years. So that averages out, plus the growth that they're expecting, about 2,000 employees a year. These are really good jobs for folks coming out of the military. They have the technical background, plus they're used to some of the non-traditional work hours, 24/7 operations, frequent relocations, and graveyard shifts. Communication skills are going to be very important. They really need to be able to communicate for safety, and also the technical. They use a lot of GPS, satellites, etc. UP does quite a bit of hiring through the Universal Technical Institute out in the Inland Empire area. That's a great training place for some vocational workers there. The trucking industry, the LMCs or the trucking companies are starting to get quite a few applications for some of their jobs that they have opening up. This is another industry that's really not going to go away. A truck carries just about everything for the last mile, either to the retailer, or if you shop online, then to you, the customer. The industry slogan used to be, if you got it, a truck brought it. So this is something that they do expect to see some growth. However, local truckers are concerned with the outcome of the ATA lawsuit regarding some of the employee mandates down at the Port of Los Angeles, and they are concerned that the opening of the Panama Canal is also going to affect cargo volumes. They're concerned that some of that cargo that could come to Southern California will go through the Panama Canal to Houston and then get trucked back. It's not going to go to the East Coast and get trucked all the way back to the West Coast, but there is potential there that it could be trucked back from Houston. Nationally, they expect a 30% increase in tonnage over the next 10 years, so they really do see some significant growth nationally. The warehouse and distribution centers, this is another one that it's really kind of easy to understand yet hard at the same time. The bottom line for the warehouse and distribution centers is that retailers call the shots, and according to Stephanie Williams of the IWLA, International Warehouse and Logistics Association, she said if there are jobs to fill, workers are easy to find. The hard part is that they can't attract workers without the cargo. So if for the workers that do get hired there, these are great blue-collar jobs. No college degree is required. You do need to have some computer background or be technologically savvy, but managers of warehouses and distribution centers can make upwards of about $100,000 a year. So that's not too bad if you don't have a college degree. So how is industry educating, and how is what we're doing? Futureports has an original designed interactive game called the Supply Chain Game. I'm not going to explain it now, but it is at our booth over in the exhibit hall, so stop by and you can see how we're trying to work with that. The ports, as Tom mentioned earlier, the Port of Long Beach has a curricular program that they're sending out actually internationally to elementary school, middle schools, and high schools. They also have Let's Talk Port community forums and their annual Green Port Fest, which we have our game. That's a photo of our game there at the annual Green Port Fest. Port of Los Angeles doing a lot of the same things. They have the Transporter 80-foot LNG truck and trailer that they take around Southern California to educate students and get folks involved. This is another one where we have our supply chain game, and that's that bottom photo there is of how they're doing some education as well. We heard earlier about the ITIP program, and there's also the Port of Los Angeles High School. So these are a lot of ways that we are trying to get, industry is working to get high schoolers educated about this, so we can start early with them about jobs in transportation and logistics.